All right, we are recording. Jilly Girl, hello, and welcome back
Hey,
to Gut
Jen.
Talk.
Yes, very happy to be here. We are not in the same state.
No, we're virtual. You guys have been like, or probably like, oh, I've heard this one before, but I'm in Virginia and Jill's in Texas.
Yep.
You know, the beauties
Classic.
of podcasting, no, the beauties of living in 2024 is that you can podcast from literally anywhere.
The amount of like random things I get done throughout the day because I work from home is just so fantastic. You know, the dishwasher's running, my laundry's going. If I'm on a
Right
call,
now?
no, because the
Oh,
noise,
okay.
but like during the day. But it really does create a lot of benefits that pre-COVID, I hate to say it, weren't there.
Yeah, I don't even remember pre-COVID.
Well, you barely had graduated, so
That's very true.
you worked
Okay,
in an office for 1 year.
Yeah. That's actually, I feel like people don't know that fact about me is that I literally only worked in an office for a year of my entire
And
life.
and she absolutely despised it.
And I didn't like it. And I'm not the most business savvy person. That's why we have Jilly Girl over here. I just am here for the education, the fun, the social media. I want to
Jenna
make
was a
money.
project Jenna was a project manager. It's like, could you
I,
imagine just like, okay, listen, you're asking about timeline, but let's really talk about the way you're pooping. How
I
many times a
literally-
day?
I was
Roger.
I was studying to be an NTP while I was working, and I remember being in the office on my computer, like on my off time where I wasn't doing anything, was studying to be an NTP. So, if that gives you any context of what I think I should have been doing in my life, here I am now. It was
Too bad
foreshadowing.
you got a business degree.
I did, but marketing and sales, which is more, I feel like, toward what I do now, if anything. I quit BIT after sophomore year. I was like, absolutely not.
But the thing too is that you are so book smart that I think you could have gone into pretty much any major and you still would have gotten the same grades because you're very good with a formula and with textbooks and just straight memory because we have a little bit of a savant nature to you.
I am a savant, without a doubt. I have aspects of savant in me, and I'm pretty proud of it. But you're so right. The thing is application. Do I want to apply myself to it? And that's where,
Yeah, and a little bit of can you? Because I think in your brain it makes sense, but sometimes the brain to exiting the mouth, you struggle sometimes with topics.
yeah, but that's also because I have developed social media ADHD.
Ah, a topic
I'm
for a
like
different
so
time.
serious by that. We'll talk about that in a different. We need an expert on. Anyway, we're just blabbing, shooting the shit right now, yapping away, if you will. But we have an episode today. We asked you guys on Instagram stories in the question box to ask us your burning questions, and you guys delivered. I boiled it down to 22 questions. And we're going to try it as much as we can, kind of rapid fire, but with like a little bit explanation.
So at the end, I want to talk about EVI, which was the vaginal microbiome test. So if you don't want to listen to that, you can skip on out after it. But for everyone that is invested, I have some updates for you. Also, I did get my hormone testing back, and I thought that was very interesting. But I'm going to call myself out and say I haven't ordered the supplements yet. So maybe we'll talk about that next time. But I do want to talk about EVI.
Yeah, I think we should talk about that next time. I also think we can talk more about like that type of testing and how it's impacted us. I personally
No, I know,
have,
but EVI, I literally have to talk about today because I'm so excited to share.
yeah, totally. We can do that today.
Okay.
Okay, so let's get into Q&A. First question, what was your biggest struggle on your gut journey and how did you conquer it? Jill, do you want to start?
Yeah, for me personally, it was that I didn't understand health. I had consumed so much of the wrong material when it comes to health and marketing that I really just thought it was calories in, calories out. And so I was so shocked by how much crap I was putting into my body that I feel like actually removing all of it was very difficult for me. It was kind of like a shock to my system because I'd gotten used to so many different fun snacks and powders and drinks and things like that that were all like energy drink type stuff that was all just not great for me. And so I think retraining my mind to understand how to eat was the biggest struggle. But then also too, I guess you could say the other, and that was like as I was healing my gut, the biggest struggle on my gut journey prior to healing was just years and years of feeling like utter shit almost every single day and having no idea what caused it or how to fix it. So it kind of guess depends on what part of my journey you're talking about.
Yeah, I'll piggyback off of that. I think, honestly, after dealing with so many issues, I think you look at food and how to be healthy way differently. And when I say that, I mean it's very hard to look at foods that you think are going to hurt your stomach or maybe are quote unquote inflammatory. People love to use that word, and not like worry about how that's going to affect you. So I think it was the process of getting on this journey was a lot of like retraining my brain that not everything's out to get me, and like it doesn't have to be the most stressful process, that I can make it the process that I want to make, and I can choose to change my mindset. Because that struggle of like fear around food, fear around healing, fear around like allowing myself to start feeling good. Again, I love to say this. It's like another podcast episode. We could dive deep into it. Just sharing that could be such a larger emphasis on that topic is something that I struggled with. And then also, I was totally the person who was out supplementing my stress and like the things that I was doing and saying to myself, and realizing that like supplements aren't going to cure me. It really is like myself who's going to take control. It took me a while to learn those techniques and those practices. And now that I know them, I'm like way happier and my journey is so much better.
Great. The second question is, how can I reduce inflammation in general and things to add and cut?
I think inflammation is this overarching term, right? That just shows that there's definitely something going on in your body, and whether it is an infection or you can see it, or puffiness, or you're just overall not feeling good, so much of quote unquote inflammation will be addressed when you work on your gut health. Literally everything is linked to your gut. And I know we might sound like we're repeating ourselves when we say that, but when you work on supporting and strengthening your gut microbiome, removing inflammatory foods, seed oils, excess sugar, alcohol, maybe processed or non-organic, low-quality dairy, gluten in a case like Jill's, you can see the inflammation go down. But it's like really when you do that gut healing work, adding more fiber, eating the right foods for your body, making sure you're balancing your meals, and then also maybe using more of like antimicrobial things like more ginger or more herbs to support said inflammation and support your gut, you will find like that inflammation starts to decrease. And everybody's journey is different. Some of us have to do a lot more work based on our situation. Others just have to make tweaks, but it all comes down and back to the gut.
Amen. I have nothing to add there.
Sister.
The third question, how tall are you? I guess you all. I'm 5'10", and I love seeing tall, athletically fit women. First of all, love that.
Amen.
Second of all, Jenna, would you like to start off with your height story?
Okay. Well, as of lately, let's just say Jill has been looking at me and literally just looking at me and being like, you grew. And I've been gaslighting her. I've been like, you are crazy. There's no way I've grown. I've got scoliosis. I feel like I'm the same height. Why would I grow? I'm 27 years old. You guys, I was in New Jersey at one of my best friend's house, and literally the seventh thing she said to me was that I grew. And I was like, what? Like, Jill literally said this. So we took it upon ourselves and we measured me. I swear to you, I grew at least 0.5 of an inch.
Now, the point was made to me when I told this story that maybe you were not being measured properly to begin with, and you've always been that height.
Could be.
That could be true. I personally feel that you look taller, and so now that you measure taller, I like the story, so we're going to go with it.
We're going to go with it, and I'm 5'8.5".
Yes, and I'm 5'7", barely. But
barely? You're 5'7".
Yeah, like just barely 5'7".
Oh.
But we both have really long legs, and so I always get, oh, I thought you were 5'10", because our legs are just really long. The other thing I'd like to say about this comment, which she probably did not like mean to go this far, but is weight, because I think that when you try to become healthier, a lot of it starts off as losing weight. And I think it's really deceiving when you see how people your age and your height weigh so much less than you. It's just like very confusing. And then you step on the scale. I remember I weighed myself like a month ago. I felt really fit. I've been running a lot. I've been lifting. And I think I was like 162 or 163, which I don't weigh myself because of that reason. I was like, there are some NFL football players running around the field at like 170.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm 5 pounds.
You'd beat them in a race.
But my point is just that, like, I think we need to start embracing that. Like, I am very healthy. I am a full-bodied person. I was not born with tiny little fragile bones.
No, we never were.
We've never been demure a day in our lives.
And we're okay with that.
And we're okay with that. We embrace that. But I think that the more you talk about it, the more comfortable it becomes for everyone. So I've always been so mortified by my weight. So I've just never weighed myself because, again, like, I have always associated like the 160s with numbers that guys weigh, and that's always kind of freaked me out, and that's just like not the way to look at it. So throwing that out there.
No, not at all. And last point that I'll add to that is, yes, I love being like strong and athletic and having a build, and obviously our society leans toward like attractiveness as being skinny, and I think that's changing. And whether you're skinny, curvy, plus size, whatever it is, your size should not depict like who you are and your beauty. I've always thought that because, again, Jill and I have never been tiny in our lives. And then the other thing that I wanted to say about that is, Jill's gonna go. Jill, don't say a freaking word. But Dancing with the Stars just dropped the new cast. Your girl is pumped. And I will tell you right now, I am so pumped that Alona Mar, I hope I'm saying that right, the rugby player, the queen, is in it and showing how like athletic built women can also be fun and feminine dancers, if you will. And we're just going to leave it at that. I'm sure this is not the only Dancing with the Stars conversation we'll have on this podcast as the season starts very soon. Anywho, okay, next question. Tips for motivation and discipline. My ADHD, unemployment, depression combo is lethal right now. I feel like Jill has good tips on that.
Yeah, I think for getting out of bed, setting your alarm somewhere that's not accessible from your bed is really helpful. Physically having to get out of bed in order to turn off your alarm is step one, I think. Just like not rotting in bed in the morning, because I think that can start the stewing. Not looking at social media when you first wake up. It's so easy and enjoyable to do, but the first thing I would say is get out there and get sun, get fresh air, and move your body. And even if it just starts as a walk, stay consistent with that. I am a very big believer that motivation is this fake thing. It's very short term. It very rarely lasts for long periods of time. And I think that motivation is kind of overrated. I think it's discipline that you want to really focus on. And when trying to build discipline, I'm talking to myself too. It's just do it. Just literally start. Like, no one ever goes on a walk and 5 minutes in is like, okay, I'm quitting this. The hardest part is getting there. So I would say, don't try to change your life tomorrow. Start with one task for the week, whether it's getting out in the morning, maybe it's, doing 5 sets of 10 sit-ups, maybe it's calling a friend, like whatever you know makes you feel better. Start with one thing, and then the next week add another thing. And by the end of the month, you'll have 4 new things that you're doing on a consistent basis. Don't beat yourself up if you miss a day, but like really try not to miss a day and make those goals achievable. The last thing I'll say is I think especially for me in times where my anxiety or like stress levels have been really bad, or I don't feel that air quotes motivation type feeling, I also find that I'm not moving. I think our bodies, our mental health needs movement, and I think that it's very underrated on how much just physically moving your body can do for your mental health. So I think that's probably where I would start.
Yeah, I love that. I agree with all of them. The other thing that I'll add is, for me, as someone who has geared or lean more toward depression, I find that if I create small little routines, whether it's a nighttime routine or a morning routine or a whatever movement routine, that I get a little bit more excited knowing that I'm staying consistent with said routines. I love going to bed because I love my nighttime routine. Waking up can be fun and like a little bit more motivating knowing that there are 3 things that you do every morning that sets you up for success. So getting in routines can help that if that motivation isn't there, supports the discipline aspect of these are the things I do every day. So it's kind of become a no-brainer.
Oh, I love that answer, Jen. And I think too, just like any time in which you feel like maybe your mental health is getting the best of you or where you don't feel like you're doing enough, writing down 3 to 5 things that you are proud of yourself about. It sounds really cheesy, but it helps. A lot of times we build up scenarios and situations to be way worse than they are. And the other thing I always like to remember is how many people have become successful later in life or at different parts of their life. They're nobody and then they're 45 and they become somebody or whatever it may be. So, just because right now you're not seeing the lifestyle that you want doesn't mean that in a year it couldn't be completely different. So
I literally remind myself of that. Like it's never too late.
there you go.
Next, what bitters and what brand do we use? So I guess you kind of just mean like, what do we use? We use Zhuge bitters or Organic Olivia, Shop Organic Olivia bitters. And I love bitters as a pre-meal tool to help stimulate those gastric juices to start helping digest your food. Every single person we've recommended bitters to have come back and told us that they absolutely love them. I've never had one person be like, this isn't for me. So if you want just a little tool, something to use for your digestion pre-meal, like literally right before you eat, on your tongue or diluted in water, highly recommend. We have a code, just a literal code for Zhuge. Maybe we should ask Organic Olivia if we can get one for hers. But that's what we use.
Anywho, how to figure out anytime I'm like changing a conversation, I'll just type out in all caps. Anywho.
Who'd you get that from?
Myself. No.
Do you know the reference?
Yes. He wants to go to Disney World. What is it?
Who wants to go to the Four Seasons Orlando?
One thing about Jenna and our bestie Nada, they both do this, is when they jump onto a trend or something that's momentarily funny on the internet, they hold on to it quadruple the amount of time that it actually exists.
Else does, yeah.
You're welcome. Okay, how to figure out your macros.
Okay, I did just like rules of thumb thing that you can follow to understand it better. So, one, I know ProMix has a good macro calculator, or you can look up any really macro calculator, put in your weight, height, everything, and they should spit out a number. But you can kind of calculate it through this. So, one is make sure you're consuming at least 3 meals a day. For your protein intake, it should be 0.8 to 1 gram times the desired body weight. So if my desired body weight is 150 grams, I'm going to do anywhere from 0.8 to 1 times that number. So it's either going to be 150 or something underneath that. And it kind of depends obviously on your activity levels and other things like that. But that's for protein. For carbs, I believe it's a ratio of 2 to 1. So if you're doing, let's just say, example, if you're someone who's just eating 100 grams of protein, which I think we all should strive for at least 100 grams a day, you're going to double that and do carbs. And you're probably like, whoa, that's so many more carbs than protein. Yes, especially as women, we need those carbs. And I don't mean just like bread, pasta, things like that. I mean like fiber-rich carbs or things like potatoes.
Can you give some examples of fiber-rich carbs?
Sweet potatoes, carrots, beets, mushrooms, broccoli, beans. Beans have some protein in them, but they really are carbs too. So 2 to 1 carbs. Obviously, this is going to depend a little bit too on your blood sugar levels and how your body's able to handle carbs. If you want like more specific, I would recommend working with someone who can help you with those numbers. And then fat, I say around 50 to 70 grams of fat a day. Oftentimes, we don't necessarily need to eat so much more extra fat because we are getting fat from animal protein sources. You're cooking with olive oil, avocado oil, or butter. And by then, like, you're getting a lot of fat already. So maybe you want to add a source or two, some avocado, things like that into your meals. But fat is usually covered by animal protein and what we're cooking with. And then always making sure you're getting 25 to 35 grams of fiber a day. That's obviously included in the carbs. But again, if you're leaning more toward carbohydrates that don't contain fiber, to like kind of analyze if you're doing that, and maybe include more veggies or leafy greens or fiber-rich foods. I tell people sometimes, like, if you're confused about foods with fiber, foods high in fiber, literally Google it. I literally sometimes, even myself, I don't know all the numbers of how much grams of fiber in each food. Highest fiber sources, and I start to make sure I'm getting them at the grocery store or cooking with them or things like that. It's way easier to just Google it than worry about somebody like understanding it or hearing about it from somebody else.
Give it a whirl.
How to meet protein goals when you're dairy-free and can't use the cheese yogurt hacks. I think, and actually someone put this in our question box the other day, like of answering how they get protein, and truly volume. And when I say volume, I mean, if you're eating 2 eggs, add another. Or if you're eating ground beef in your dinner, just add a little bit more. And I think that will allow us to stay fuller longer. Like you can get, like Jill did, how many grams of protein was in your breakfast this morning?
40
grams of protein.
And granted, I did have yogurt, but I definitely didn't need it. I had 30 grams without the yogurt. And also, too, you can still make a protein smoothie without yogurt. So I think some really quick ones. Jenna said add volume for sure. Another thing, too, is I think we rely on, like, chicken quite a bit. Don't be afraid to venture out to ground beef. Have steak. We've been so scared of red meat for decades. Like, add that red meat in there. I did a turkey wrap for lunch. Also, don't forget about our protein coffee, right? You could do a little bit of oat milk, some cold brew coffee, and a scoop of protein powder, and that really does the trick. You can make smoothies, right? You can do banana and peanut butter and chocolate protein, or do more of like a berry one with mixed berries and vanilla protein and some milk. They could be really simple and really, really delicious. So I think that yogurt and dairy, truthfully, is probably 10% of my protein or less a day.
Yeah. Question number 9. 8. What is the tea on MLM health products like Shakely, Arbonne, etc.? You guys, I would stay away. Like, I would stay away from any MLM company besides, I think, one of those cleaner skincare products is an MLM. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I actually think that their sunscreen's really good, but I can't remember what it's called.
Anyway, I would stay away from all of them. I don't trust those brands. I think it's very scammy. I think it's, they call their protein a meal replacement protein shake, which Arbonne does.
That. Yeah, I'm looking up their ingredients on the internet right now.
Even like if they were good at, like, I guess sometimes maybe influencer marketing can kind of seem like MLM because you're promoting something and using your code and you're getting money off of it. But I've never seen a Shakely, Arbonne, whatever else products. Like, I've never looked at them and been like, this is a really good product. Oh. So I would avoid it personally.
It's like, well, and also too, so it has in the shake, it has 200 calories. So if it's a meal replacement, then that means for one of your 3 meals, you're only consuming 200 calories. That's insane to me.
Agreed.
Anywho,
question number 9. How do you balance work, life, and gut talk?
Not well.
Not well. Queenies. Jill doesn't well at all. Jill has way too much going on. I literally can't balance gut talk in my life to save my life.
This is how you do it. You respond to all your friends within 48 business hours. Yeah. You've basically stopped drinking because you can't afford to lose a day with any sort of scaries or hangover. You date a guy who travels primarily for his job, so he's never here. And you live with your sister and your best friend's in the same building, so you at least see them when walking the dog.
Yeah.
And you still prioritize your sleep so that way you can glow even when you feel like utter shit.
Yeah. Transparently, Jill has way too much going on. It's something that we're trying to figure out how she can decrease her load, because I would never recommend to anyone how much Jill has going on. I just wouldn't.
Well, and to explain it just in case, I think I've broken it down a few times, but
Yeah.
I consult for a company and that's 30 to 40 hours a week. But then I started my own like softball gig where I do a lot of group lessons in clinics. And so that's at nighttime. And that normally takes like 3 hours up, maybe 3 days a week, but then a little bit more. So let's say that's like 10 hours and then gut talk stuff. So I probably work closer in all reality to like 70 hours a week when it's all said and done, 70 or 70-ish. But the other thing too, and I think maybe somebody can relate to this, is I didn't ever have like a super clear career path. When I graduated with my master's at Duke, you'd think that I would just be soaring off into some like incredible job, but I was really turned off by the big four consulting firms and all the big companies, because to me it just felt like you were put in this like hamster wheel, and then every like 2 years you're eligible for some sort of promotion. And I just wanted to be in a different environment, so I joined a startup of 6 people and I loved it. Unfortunately, when COVID hit, we didn't have a COVID plan, so much like a lot of other companies. But then I started bouncing around from startups, and I love startups, but it's a little bit chaotic in nature. And so I just don't really have a clear career path. And so now I do softball, gut health, and modular housing consulting. So there's no rhyme or reason as to what I'm doing. I have to make money, and I live a nice lifestyle that I really don't want to give up. So until further notice, we'll just be figuring it out.
Yeah. And one thing that we both have recognized in ourselves, and I think obviously like a heavy workload can hinder and impact your health, but that, like Jill mentioned, sleep and taking care of our bodies is what helps us feel our best, that we can operate at our highest. And although I don't have a job, multiple jobs like Jill does, I feel like running your own business and being on social media and being there for our community takes a lot of time, energy, and effort and brain power, literally. Like I go to sleep thinking about Gut Talk. I wake up thinking about it. We think, it takes a lot of our energy. You have to have your health set. You have to be eating well, sleeping, doing all those foundational things to power at a higher level.
Yep. I'm with you.
Next. This next question is, can you please talk about sodium, high blood pressure, and getting electrolytes in? This kind of sounds like more of a specific question, so I'll just be general. Sodium does not work alone. You need other cofactors like potassium and magnesium to go along with it. That's what's in electrolyte powders. I think we've become scared of sodium due to previous things said in the media and those scare tactics that we've heard about red meat, we've heard about eggs, we've heard about butter, things like that. And what we all really need is we need minerals, especially if you're dealing with digestive issues or imbalances, or you're not absorbing and digesting your food as well as you should. Minerals are what helps our body be strong and operate and feel good, and all of those basic things. We need minerals. We need minerals in balance too. And you have to make sure you are consuming sodium with also magnesium and potassium, and that's why they're in electrolytes. I love starting the day with electrolytes. I love adding some salt. Add some salt into your lemon water. I think that's such a fantastic way to replenish your body. And also it helps bring down our stress levels too. For example, if you're doing a strenuous workout, you want to refuel your body with minerals. Same as with hydration. You just don't want to hydrate by itself with water. You want to add minerals to that to really absorb and to really reap the benefits of it. We've said this 100 times now, and I'm not saying that to be we're repeating ourselves for you. No, I can't express it enough how important it is. So I think I don't want to really address all the high blood pressure part and everything. We can definitely do an episode that's talking more about that, maybe with an expert. But I will say is we need those things. And unless you're you have a genetic predisposition to not be able to handle sodium, with that, if that's you, obviously speak with your doctor. We need sodium, especially, for so many different reasons. Question number 11. she was asking for breakup tips. I promise you guys I'm making a whole episode about this. I just want to be more out of my breakup and it to be not as fresh to one, like talk on how I'm handling things, but also so you're not like you just went through it. How do you even know what to do? But I will tell you right now, I'm on the come up, baby. Yeah. Anyway, sorry if you're sorry that you're bringing me down right now. Like, literally dance with me, celebrate, sing and jive.
There's something about you singing in our childhood home that triggers the years and years of you singing so loud through the house that it didn't matter where you were.
And
I could hear you.
Mom loves it. Dad doesn't. And it's me supporting my vagus nerve. Okay? So, sorry.
Support your vagus nerve on your own time.
It technically is. Anyway, I am feeling so much better. I feel like the tips and tricks and tools that I've been using deserves an entire podcast episode that Jill and I are going to do soon. Ain't that right,
Great.
Jilly girl?
Yes, ma'am. All right, next. What are your thoughts on HRT or hormone replacement therapy for women?
You know, it's hard. And again, this is another topic that I think, obviously, I want you guys to talk to your doctor about. I think hormone replacement therapy can be extremely beneficial, especially
in menopause.
Menopause, yeah. And I wish right now that I had the name of the woman who our mom follows, who she loves, put so much information out. I feel like we should text mom right now and ask her, but
I'll text her.
yeah, please. But I think it's great. And then I know other like more functional doctors who don't necessarily support it because they're like, you should be supporting through food and like things like that. I would go on and say, do literally what is best for you. I know doctors, even our mom's parents' functional doctor has my mom on it. Therefore, like it could make such a difference in their lives if they do go on it versus like if you're trying to take the more functional route. Like sometimes you just can't take the functional medicine route, and I completely understand that. And whereas I'm not going to like dive deep into what hormone replacement therapy is and who I think should have it and not whatnot, just know that I do always like my stance as a practitioner is that there's a time and place for everything. And if you have been recommended it and you feel like you need it and you've done your research on what benefits you, then go for it.
Well, and our mom went and got a ton of blood work done to see how her overall health was. And she has been on HRT, and it has allowed her results, her blood test results, to be extremely positive, where we know others who had those same tests done and they were not as positive because she was not on HRT. So it just shows you that different periods of life, different reasons require different things. But I think that's kind of just goes to the point that health is so individual and so specific to you. And just because your neighbor or your girlfriend or whoever it is on HRT doesn't mean you should, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't either.
Yeah. 13.
Anywho, eating enough so that I'm not eating and snacking at night. I'm lost with portion size and protein. So we always say to aim for 30 grams of protein per meal. And if you need to track it, do so. Don't feel guilty if you have to consume more. I personally have been measuring out my protein because I do find it really hard to eyeball making sure you get enough. But one thing that I will say is I try to eat my protein almost like first in my meal. Like if I have like a bowl of things, if it's not mixed all together, I try to consume the protein first. That way, if I do get full, the protein is part of what filled me up and not like empty carbs, if that makes sense. The other thing I'll say is that, and I need to take my own advice, oftentimes you're eating too fast if you can't figure out how much you need. And if you eat a little bit slower, I found that our body does a pretty good job of telling us when we're full. But when we like overload it by eating so fast and inhaling like our food because we're watching TV or we're watching TikTok and we're multitasking and eating, our bodies just aren't as good at alerting us. So that would be like a really easy tip to start with, is just start eating your meals slower and actually measuring. I have a little scale that I use for weight, or I just do like a cup if it's something like ground beef or something, and I just scoop it out of whatever I made.
Yeah, the other thing too is you don't just have to have 3 meals a day. Like, you can add another meal. And if you are hungry before bed, technically that's okay. Like, eat a protein-rich snack.
I think if you're hungry before bed, also too, like ask yourself what types of meals are leading to that hunger. Because some nights I'm so hungry and then I realize that I had a salad and some noodles and I had no protein, or I didn't have like a very filling meal, and then it's like, oh, that checks out. Very rarely am I starving at night when I've actually fueled my body properly.
Agreed. And also, yeah, so I think one is like truly slowing down and making sure you're listening to your body's cues. The next one too that I want to add is making sure, obviously, like Jill said, getting in enough protein, but making sure you're balancing that with carbs and fat. That should help with the satiation. I always forget how to say like the shorter version of that. That's going to help you like really like your body recognize. And then also allow yourself, if you do need and you're going to bed, quote unquote, starving, that you can have a protein rich snack to kind of calm your stomach. And don't feel guilty about that, because maybe your body's just like, I need a little bit more fuel. And the more you start paying attention to that and maybe adding a little bit more with your meals, you'll find that you can kind of balance it all out a little bit better. Number 14, what's the most underrated gut health tip of all time?
In my opinion, eat real food. Everyone wants a supplement. Everyone wants all these protocols and removing and da-da-da-da-da. Start by just eating real foods. Eating real food is where you start, and it will always do you a lot of service.
And mine is slow the F down.
Would you like to elaborate?
I was kind of waiting for like an applause or something.
Well, I only have one hand to work with, and I have a dog on my lap, so sorry, we're a little
It's okay.
maxed out over here.
Slow down. Slow down your life. Slow down your eating. Take a few deep breaths before you eat. We get so caught up in this what to do, what to eat, what to supplement, and we get so stressed out. Your body's stressed out. You need to slow down, relax, take a deep breath. The way that impacts our nervous system, whether or not you're slowing down or you're really just like speeding up your thoughts, your actions, how you're eating, everything, it makes such a difference in your nervous system. Rest and digest is how we digest our food. And if you are not slowing down, you are not reaping the benefits of how much your nervous system is impacting how you digest. Slow down.
There you go. Some synapses for you.
Uh-huh.
It's not a question. It's the gut-eczema connection. So can we talk about it?
Yeah, we can talk about the gut-eczema connection. Again, this is like a more of a specific question and answer, but I know some of you guys deal with skin issues. I know there are people who have eczema in our community. And one, like, not annoying answer, but finding the root cause. I think one thing that research has found, or anecdotally, that there are offending foods that can exacerbate eczema symptoms. So milk, eggs, wheat, soy, peanuts. Those are kind of the main ones. And maybe you go on like a small elimination diet. A lot of these things could exacerbate the symptoms, causing a little bit more inflammation in the body, which is causing more of that immune response, which is then causing that skin, your eczema, to flare up. So looking at the offending foods and doing an elimination diet can help. Also, another correlation that I found is that studies show that people with eczema tend to have lower levels of beneficial bacteria and higher levels of pathogenic bacteria like Staphylococcus, Strep aureus, and Candida. And you can find those types of things in a stool test. And then also, fungal and yeast overgrowth can play in part in that, which is partly is Candida. Also, leaky gut. Oh, all right, we just had a technical difficulty. But now we're back. And so still with a gut eczema connection, leaky gut too is connected to it as well. So no or low Akkermansia, Sig A, or another bacteria. And then there's also a possible H. pylori or pathogen connection, and like understanding that. So getting a stool test done, addressing your leaky gut, addressing maybe Candida, yeast, or H. pylori, working with a practitioner can significantly decrease or diminish or get rid of your eczema. There's a huge connection, a huge correlation to it. Again, so much, if everything is connected to the gut. And it's a really good question because I think people don't understand that maybe their skin issues are connected to gut issues.
There you go.
If you had to tell someone the worst mistake they're making for their gut, what would it be?
I really believe that as a society, especially with marketing, like don't forget the supplement industry is over $1 billion business, multi-billion dollar business. I think we are way overdoing the supplements and not really anchoring down the basics and foundations of health. I feel like Jill and I often try to talk about the basics or foundations of health or an end of digestion, and like you're going and you're reaching for 10 supplements and you're watching supplement routines, and although supplements can be such a great addition, if you are missing and not anchoring down the basics every single day, you are missing out on true gut healing. The other aspect is that you're avoiding the further testing, so you're not understanding what actually is going on in your body. If you are dealing with so many gut issues, you have no answers, but you're just like trying all these different things and they're not working, tests, don't guess. Getting proper testing done, you'll be able to with us soon, will allow you to understand what is going on in your gut and how we can make changes based on that. That's what people miss out on.
Another thing to note is like, and this is kind of an example of what Jenna's saying, is what works for someone may not work for you. And so a simple thing like a probiotic, if you have good gut bacteria, but just not enough of it, a probiotic is going to grow that gut bacteria, which is awesome. But if you have predominantly bad gut bacteria and you take a probiotic, there's a chance you will just grow all of the bad bacteria that's in your gut and make it worse. That happened to me. I took a probiotic when things weren't super great and all my gut issues got worse. So I'm not saying don't take a probiotic. I'm just saying like when you guess, it's a flip of a coin whether or not it's going to help you or not. And we just like to call it expensive pee. Like you're taking a lot of things that aren't really doing anything for you.
And again, that's like a mistake that Jill and I made, so that we weren't anchoring down the basics. And they're not easy to anchor down because they take that discipline and those routines to always focus on them. But once you start focusing on them so much, they become second nature. There was a lot of questions on SIBO and IBS, and this would take me another 15 to 20 minutes to just like begin the basics of this. I'm making the ode and the promise to you guys to have an episode on SIBO in the next 5 or so episodes. We will get an expert on to talk about this topic because I don't want it to go overlooked. I know a lot of you people are struggling with it. So many people in the country and world are struggling with it, and it deserves a separate podcast episode. So I promise you that we will be bringing that to you. Next, tips on having multiple issues at once, like gluten, you're dairy-free, corn-free, nut-free, you have inflammation, help SOS. Everything comes back to your gut health. If I could shout this from the rooftops 1,000,000 times, I would, and I will. Because all of those problems right there are directly related to your gut. It sounds like leaky gut. It sounds like your gut is dealing with something into which it can't handle or tolerate those foods. Yes, it can be that it's maybe the lack of quality in those specific foods. But if you are dealing with so much inflammation, you can't process certain foods like dairy, it is a gut issue. And you have to address your gut. You have to strengthen your gut microbiome. You have to strengthen your gut lining and maybe address yeast or candida or H. pylori that maybe is inhibiting some of that stomach acid or the enzyme production or anything to digest those foods properly. It all comes back to the gut. And it's so important that you address that in order to be able to handle all of those other things and reduce, quote unquote, inflammation.
How to live with someone who doesn't have healthy habits, eats ultra processed foods, etc.
That literally is my favorite question to answer, and I'm so glad you asked.
Is it really?
It is, because whereas I've never really had to do that per se, I mean, my ex ate well, but like not like perfectly well. I really didn't have to deal with it. But I know in certain situations, I think a lot of people do have to deal with it. One of the things that I will say about that is I think you just need to do you. I think you need to not worry about what X, Y, and Z person is doing. Maybe it's your husband maybe it's your wife, maybe it's your mom, dad, whoever it is. You have to just stay on track and do what works for you and not worry about them, because the more you take care of yourself, what I've seen and what I've noticed with a lot of people, the better you feel, people will start getting curious. And you have to wait for their curiosity to peak. Maybe it's in a year, maybe it's in 3 months, maybe it's in 4 years. Whatever it is, when people see you shining and feeling so good and so energized and doing well, maybe they'll mock you at first, or maybe they'll be like, why are you talking like this at a restaurant? Again, like, this is not talking about being perfect, because none of us are perfect in how we eat. But if you are someone who values your health and eats well and makes changes and likes to take care of yourself, people will notice and they will get curious. I've heard it from countless people. I've seen it in my life personally. And just stay on track, focus on you, and maybe you can give some hints to people. But when they realize how good you feel, they'll want to be and start making changes like you. I've seen it. I've seen it so many times.
There you
Jilly
go.
girl, anything to add?
Well, I'd just say that I think you can make meals really fun and healthy. And I think if you're like, hey, we're doing nachos. Hey, we're doing chili. Hey, we're doing a pasta dish. Don't necessarily call out that it's with organic meat or that the ingredients are better. Just focus on the fun and the tasty part of it. And I think you can kind of get away with a lot that way, personally.
Wait, I kind of love that. Like, we're making healthy nachos tonight, and they get excited. Like,
but don't say healthy nachos. It's like, we're making nachos. Like, just you pick the ingredients that go in them, season it well, get excited about it, have like a poppy instead of a soda, and next thing you know, it's like, let's not focus on it being healthy. Just like, let's have a good, tasty meal. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I love that. And the other thing that I'll say on that is, I think maybe sometimes if people aren't eating the healthiest or they're not taking care of themselves, it's probably because they have a lot of barriers in their life and in their mind. And oftentimes we have to be empathetic to that, because they think maybe how hard it is to make a change, or that they just don't know what to do. Send them our podcasts. That would be one thing. But truly, like, kind of kidding, they maybe don't realize what life can be like if you do really feel good, because maybe they've never felt it before, or they just don't know. So don't necessarily take their negativity towards your healthy eating, if that's the case, and be like, it's because they suck. Like, maybe they have their own barriers in their mind that's preventing them from making changes too.
The last one we'll do is your favorite gut healing supplements that aren't constipating.
Try bitters first is what I'll say. But what I'll also say is, if supplements are making you constipated, you have to go back again and work more on foundations, or let's say drainage work, aka supporting the colon, which is the first line of work that you should be doing if you are trying to address any imbalances in the gut, is making sure you are pooping. Because supplements, yeah, they can have a constipation aspect to them. Maybe if you're taking a fiber supplement, or like you need to be drinking more water, but like really working on making sure you're addressing constipation first before you go and take 10 different supplements, because you really shouldn't be too constipated in the first place. Like, make sure you are going poop at least one time daily, a solid poop, a Bristol stool chart 3 to 4 if you want to look it up. And then if you're addressing those foundations, then maybe you'll be able to handle supplements better, if that makes sense.
Okay. I loved that. I think that was super fun.
Yeah.
I do want to talk a little bit about our one-on-one stuff and Evie, and then we can wrap up if that works.
Okay, perfect.
One-on-one, Jenna is going to start taking clients again. I am going to be a part of that process. Obviously, I am not the one creating the protocols. I am not reading the GI map stool test, but a lot of the work that practitioners who take on clients have to manage is a lot of the admin work. And so that is where I come in. So you will see me as a part of the process. You will hear from me. I'll be sending emails. I'll be doing all of those things. And we are going to release probably next week a sign up list. And we're going to start off by taking a certain amount of clients, and then hopefully we'll be able to increase that amount once we kind of get on a roll. But our website will highlight all of the steps that you will take, what you get out of it. But I think probably in our next episode, Jen, we should really just like take 15 minutes to kind of roll through like what the process looks like, what you're going to get out of it, so people can really understand like what we're doing. I think the reason that we're doing the one-on-one again is because we've just had so many requests. Like there are just so many people out there that really want individualized one-on-one help. And who are we to say no to the people?
Right.
The other thing that I just wanted to quickly touch on is Evie. It's an at-home vaginal microbiome test. If you are grossed out by that, or a man, or you don't want to hear about it, this is your warning now. But basically you take a swab. If you haven't seen my post before, you take a swab, you swab yourself at home, and then you send it in. The reason I personally started with Evie was because I was getting just prescribed medication after medication after medication at my gynecologist, and they were just not helping me. And I was getting so frustrated. And Evie was really cool because it breaks down all of the bacteria. It tells you like how much good bacteria you have, just like your gut, and then how much that's probably hurting you. I have 1% beneficial bacteria currently, meaning that like I will get BV, yeast infections, whatever, with just the quickest touch of encountering it, because I don't have anything to fight off the bad stuff. So I'm now on a protocol. I just finished my boric acid suppositories, which, just a little like side note for anyone that's interested about this, if you're still listening, you probably do care to some extent. The boric acid suppositories that you get at like the store and stuff, they come in like pill form. This is more of like those cream ones. And I have noticed such a difference in taking those for 6 days. Now, my BV symptoms are what I would call like a lot more silent than traditional if you Google it. Thank God, because BV I think can be a really horrendous thing to have. But it's almost like once you get it, until you're treated properly, it doesn't go away. And the medication that I was being prescribed at my gynecologist, the practitioners and the gynos that I worked with at Evie basically said that they see that that really doesn't work anymore. So it's like no wonder I had it. But I was prescribed fluconazole over 6 times. And they also informed me that fluconazole is really known for wiping out good bacteria. So consuming it one time would have that. I've had it 6 times. So I'm really, really glad I started with Evie. I've already started to see improved results just by doing the boric acid suppositories. And I didn't have, when I was researching all of this, I couldn't find all of this information out there, which is why I really care about talking about it more. But the boric acid suppositories, they normally say it like balances your pH, and like that's really what it's for. Like if you have sex, like you might want to have one after just to help the pH rebalance, or after your period, maybe take a boric acid suppository. But what they told me is that the boric acid suppository is taken over a number of days prior to like a cream, like a clindamycin cream. It can actually basically prime the vaginal area. Sorry, I don't know what word that is, for the medication. So they were like, and no gynecologist has ever told me that. They were like, no, the boric acid suppositories the week prior is key to giving you the best shot of like wiping out all of the bacteria. So it's just really cool. I mean, they give you this entire report. They give you like an online calendar of when you're supposed to be taking what. You always start the treatments after your period. And so basically it's like boric acid suppository, then cream like that you actually insert. And then it's an oral pill, and then it's a probiotic that is specifically designed for the vaginal microbiome. So it's like a 4-week treatment plan, and then you kind of restart with testing again if you want to. I personally want to. I think the whole process with the medications and the meeting with the practitioner and the actual test is somewhere around $300. But I've spent more than that at the gynecologist between my just like inpatient like fee with my insurance, and then also the medication I've been buying over and over and over and over again. So for me personally, I just wish I would have done this months ago.
Yeah.
So
interesting.
Yeah, all of that is to just say that I'm really happy with the experience. I will obviously, when I retest, I can compare my results and share. But so far, so good. And I'm really, really glad I found it.
Thank goodness. I know. Shout out to Jamie for
Yes.
introducing it to you.
Our girl.
We need to talk about that and make an episode on that too, is like the vaginal microbiome, because your gut health impacts it too.
Yeah, we gotta
Anyway.
find a gynecologist who's willing to actually talk about it.
Maybe someone from Evie.
Evie.
Yeah, I'll reach out to them. Okay. Well, you guys, we love this episode. Honestly, I love Q&As. I think it's a good way to just like answer your burning questions. We need to do like a more juicy. I'm hoping you guys are asking us more of the juicy questions next time, because
What's
we want to.
juicy? Can you give us
I
an
don't know.
example?
I don't know. What would you consider? Like maybe them asking you about your boyfriend or something.
Ooh.
Your new boyfriend. Okay. Anyway, thank you guys so much for joining us. As always, if you love this episode, please send it, and sharing it is what helps us get out everywhere, and also rating it 5 stars if you feel like it's worthy, and giving a little review, typing it in at the bottom of the page. We read them all and we appreciate them all so much. With that being said, we will see you next week. We love you guys very much. Hope you have the best day.
Bye.
Bye.